that you had a meaningful experience. Just a reminder of the safety instructions on this book.
For some of you, being on a boat in the ocean is a new experience. It is natural to feel a bit nervous, but our crew is here to make you feel comfortable.
If you're feeling sick or nauseous, please make use of the seasickness bag at your disposal.
About the reception. Then in front of us, we have 3 pictures. First one, it was Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu. Then second one, all of them, they tried to sit right here in this tennis court, chopping the stone. Each person have a bulk of the stone. The time they chop the stone, there are guards moving around to look after them. No one can talk in each other. They'll be talking to each other when they go back to their cells. Then we have the last one. After all of us were released, we called by the former president, where they were going to come to the island to make a reunion, also to see each other. Then this group is a reunion. Then the time they chop the stone, also there's a guard moving around top of this building carrying firearms. The book we call Long Way to Freedom. That book was writing in this section, right in that connect that tree of the grapes. And they decide themselves to make just a small garden where they're going to plant a vegetable. Before they planted the vegetable, they're going to dig a small hole where they're going to put all political documents they get it, right under the vegetable. The guards, they get the information, there is a document was writing here in this section. So when they arrive at night, going inside the cell, opening the prison, take them out, all of them. Where they're going to stand next to the wall, take all prison tools. Then the group of the guards, some of them, they go inside to check the document. If they're not finding any document inside, they will take a small bucket, get it the water, where they're going to throw each cell the water. And after that, they're going to take those people, those comrades, put right in the cell. Then also those documents, if I said to you, we're smuggling the document from outside in the different countries, they allowed to get a contact visit, where they're going to see the person come to visit. Then before they took the document, they used their code. If that person going to supply us with the document, they have a code and then they'll be answered. Then when the guard starting to move, going to smoke outside or to urine, they will take the document quickly under the table. Take the document, put under the underwear. Then they're going to dress himself quickly. When the guard came in, they will say, no, now it's time up. They will be escorted by the guard, came back to the prison. Right in the main door, they will sell that person, They are not finding the document here. Then later on, they are going to discuss that document they get it from outside, where they're going to supply us with a different section. How to supply us with a document? Decided themselves to play a tennis right here, where they're going to put a net, take 2 balls. One ball, they'll be cut just a small hole. Putting that document put inside the ball. There will be 3 of them. One of them, they will sit right in that bench, play the first ball, hit that ball deliberately, go with that person. But this one of the document, they're going to hit that ball, go over that hole, go into the A section. After that, those who are kept in the A section will take the document quickly, throw the ball back. After that, we'll read the document at night. Tomorrow morning, when they get their breakfast, if we eat the breakfast, after that, take those documents, put inside the pot, take all the plate you are using, put top of the document, then sending outside. Then we have those who work in the kitchen. When they collect those plates and pots, go to wash the kitchen. Before they took the document, they will look where's the cut. If the cut, they arrive. Keep that pot going under the table. Till the cut must be moved, go in his office. After that, we take those documents, distribute in a different pot, take the plate, put top of the document, sugar, bread, powder milk. Now when the guard starts to look, there's no extra milk. So they'll tell them, okay, you can take those pots, put it top of the trolley. Then where are they going to supply us with the document? It is how we smuggling the document. But they didn't find any document to us. We have our underground till we release all of us. Question? Now, ladies and gentlemen,
there's 4 prisons. Although the whole island has been a prison for more than 450 years, the whole island has been a prison, okay, has always been used as prison for more than 450 years. Okay, man. But now, like I said, I'm going to explain to you the history and the narrative of the whole island. Now, all my talks I do is interactive talks because I ask questions, and most probably you're also going to ask me questions, yes? Because you come to learn. But now the difference is when I ask a question and you get the answer wrong, I'm going to have to put you off the bus. Okay? but now the first question is, why is this island called Robben Island? Why?
Seal Island.
Because of what?
Seals.
Of the seals, correct, lady. Now, when the Dutch occupied the island in 1652, they found that there was thousands of seals, if not millions. Okay. Now, because of a seal in Dutch is called a rob, then they named the island Robben Island, meaning Seal Island. So now when the English also occupied the island in the late 1800s, or 1800s, then they called the island Penguin Island, because the penguins. Because the seals and the penguins are the only Indian animal islands, are the seals and the penguins. But because the English didn't write down the history, the Dutch got the name Robben Island. Now, the size of this island is 574 hectares big, so it's quite big, not that small. 12 kilometers in circumference, 5 kilometers by 2.5, that's the size of this island. Now, on this island, we got plus minus more than 200 buildings, structures, buildings. But those structures come from Second World War, because Robben Island was also used as a naval base in Second World War, naval base. So from 1939 until 1945, this was a naval base. As South Africa was part of the British of the Allied Force, so most buildings come from Second World War. We also got structures beneath the grounds. We got plotting rooms, we got bomb shelters, we also got a clinic underground where 2 of those places fit into. We also got toilets beneath the ground, so there's quite a lot from Second World War, which I will also show you as we go along. But like I said, this island has always been a prison, a place of isolation, a place of banishment. So the history of the island is just about imprisonment. So the history of the island is more about sadness. Now, if you see to the right-hand side, this is another sad period of Robben Island's history. Now, these are the people that died of leprosy. So we all know what's leprosy, yes? Afrikaans is called malaats. Now, the prison you come from there, that prison, is built upon graves also of people that died of leprosy. But must also remember that many other islands all over the world at the time was also used as leprosy colonies. So from 1846 until 1931, for nearly 85 years, Robben Island was a leprosy colony. But then also, if you came here as a leper sufferer, you came here as husband and wives, and children and families. But also when you came to the island, then you were separated and segregated. They kept the female lepers on the northern part. There's a female colony on the northern part. There's a male colony on the southern part of the island. They kept them apart because they didn't want them to bear children, and there was strict securities. But now, although they were kept apart and there were strict securities, 41 children was born from the lepers, 41. Until today, we don't know how it happened. They say it's a miracle. But when there's a man, there's always a way. There's no leper man. But most people say it's because of cross-pollination. Got very strong winds blowing in. You saw yesterday, it's blowing very strong. Could be the pollen also coming from Cape Town. So 41 children was born. When the children was born, the children was healthy children, so it was not contagious. So at birth, the child was taken from the mother back to Cape Town to be adopted there, not to be seen again after that. In 1931, Robben Island closed altogether as a leprosy colony because by then, they have found out the bacteria that cause leprosy. Ladies and gentlemen, is there any questions about the leper period before we continue? Like, can we see all the trees here? All the trees on Robben Island is alien trees, okay? They don't belong to Robben Island. They come from Australia. These trees was introduced in the late 1800s. They are called the eucalyptus, the one I talk about Saxons and the Roigrands. The trees was introduced to bind the soil of the island and for the storms and winds and to give shade for the leper sufferers at the time. The main source of vegetation on Robben Island is called. But then, like I said, on Robben Island we got 4 prison buildings. So we're now on our way to the smallest prison on Robben Island. Now this small prison was only prepared for one man, okay? Because the government said that this man was too influential, that this man cannot be kept with other prisoners. They was getting by influence him. Not even be kept with the leaders. Did you see the leaders' cells, the B section? Where they kept the Sasulus, the Mandelas, and Robben. You saw the B section, yes? And those also leaders. But this leader had his own prison for himself. Because at the time, this leader was very powerful. No. Who's this man? Correct. Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. If I may ask by just a show of hands, how many people in the past have ever heard of Sobukwe? Show of hands. That's nice, quite a few, it's good. Because usually when I ask a question, usually one hands go up or no hands go up, okay? It's very few people have heard about this man. Even though there are South Africans also. Because this man's name isn't well known throughout the world, actually. Although this man, Robert Sobukwe, he played an important part in our freedom, if not the most important part. Because you must remember, this was the man, Sobukwe, that opened the eyes of the world into what was taking place in South Africa. Because of the Sharpeville massacre, on that one Pacific Day, 21st of March 1960, where so many black people was killed throughout the country, it was Robert Sobukwe that inspired all the black people on that Pacific Day to take on the might of the government. Whereas his political party called the PAC, the Pan-Africanist Congress, was still a baby, only 6 months. He took them on. So the government thought, if this man can do that in 6 months, what else can this man still do? So this man, because of that, he was brought into Robben Island to be kept out of sight and out of mind. He was actually brought here just to die out in silence. Okay, that's all. Now, we see the small structure here, this building here, next to the bus, with the window, the barrel. That was his prison for 6 years. Okay, that is called the Robert Sobukwe Isolation House. But now, Robert Sobukwe, before he became PAC, he was an ANC member, what Mandela. Okay, they also attended 40 those years in the Eastern Cape was only for blacks at the time. Now, Robert Sobukwe broke away from the ANC, him and a few followers, because they did not agree with ANC's ideology at the time. They broke away from ANC. And then in 1959, him and a few followers, they formed the PAC in 1959. He became the leader. But now the government that was in control of South Africa, they were called the Nationalist Party. The Nationalist Party came into power in 1948. So when the Nationalist Party came to power in 1948, they now started to implement many bad laws upon all black people of South Africa. Okay? The worst law that was put upon black people was called the pass laws. Like I said, there was many other laws, but the pass laws was the worst law. Now the pass laws meant that all black people from the age of 16 years old, whether you're male or a female, you must now carry on you a special booklet. And that booklet was called, and the reference book. The black people have named it the Dom Pass. Okay, that's Afrikaans word. In English, it's called the stupid pass or the stupid book, only for black people. Now, this stupid book became now the most important booklet for a black person at the time. So from 1948 until 1986, in that period when it was abolished, 86 was abolished, okay? In that period, that stupid book was the most important booklet for a black person at the time. Because a black person must carry that stupid book now for 24 hours a day. They must sleep with it and wake up with it. Because if a policeman asks a black person, where is your stupid book? A black person is in the right places at the wrong time. A black person will go to prison now for 3 to 6 months without a trial. So you can imagine now the prison throughout the country was filled up with black people because of all these stupid laws. Mother and fathers was in prison while many black children became orphans of these laws also. Robert Sobukwe and the PSC got tired of these laws that oppressed black people. And then Robert Mangaliso, he inspired all the black people, he said. But he said it must happen on the same time and the same day throughout the country. But he said it must happen on the 21st of March, 1960. Now, today in Africa, since 1994, the 21st of March is celebrated as our 21st of March, our Human Rights Day. Okay? So now, because of that, okay, Robert Sobukwe, he inspired the black people and he told them that they must take their stupid book, he said, and he said, you must leave the book at home. And he also said, burn out the booklet. He said, from now onwards, 21st of March 1960, you don't carry on you anymore the stupid book or the Dom Pass. And then he said, you must go to the nearest police station where you live at. And he said, when you get to the police station, you must go hand yourself over to be arrested. Tell the policeman that they must arrest you because you're not going to carry any on you more the stupid book. Now, why will you ask a black person to do that? Because Robert Sobukwe knew that it was impossible to arrest millions of black people on the same time at the same day. Because he knew the prisons throughout the country could not accommodate all black people. Okay? Because there wasn't the prisons. So by doing that, he said, is to confuse the justice system on the day. But now in a place called Sharpeville and many other places, the police now reacted on that day by killing black people throughout the country. But most black people was killed in Sharpeville. So 69 black people, okay, harmless people, defenseless people, was massacred in less than 5 minutes with machine guns, 69 of them. Mostly women and children shot to the backs. There's a place called Langa, out of Cape Town, also 21 black people was massacred out there. Throughout the day, 360 people was gunned down. Robert Sobukwe, because he was the leader, he was now held responsible, and he was now sentenced in a court of law. He was now charged with incitement. He was now sentenced to 3 years imprisonment, Pretoria Central, for incitement. So then just before his 3 years was about to be completed, the government was now very skeptical about this man's powers. That the government went to Parliament. We know in Parliament, then they make the law of the country. But in this one specific meeting, okay, they only discussed what to do with Sobukwe. And then they made up a law in Parliament, and that law was called the Sobukwe Clause. And then that clause gave them powers to keep Sobukwe in prison for indefinite without a trial, only for him. So when he came out of prison in 1963, they implemented the clause upon him. And then he was brought to Robben Island under the Sobukwe Clause. So in 1963, he was brought into Robben Island. Then that building there, like I said, that structure became his living coffin for 6 years. The whole fence of area, this was his whole world. He could not go beyond that. There was 6 wardens that was patrolling here. 6 wardens patrolling here. His punishment was that he's not allowed to speak to anybody. Not even speak to the wardens, and they not in return speak to him. And this man was a very intellectual man, because he was the first black professor that lectured at the university. He was a professor in linguistics. And also while being kept in isolation, he also studied law. So you can imagine this man was a very intellectual man. So now his wife could come with him frequently. So in 1967, he became very ill. So now the government said he's suffering of cancer of the lungs. But when it was believed, he could have been slowly poisoned. Because you must also remember, many black people was poisoned by government in the 60s. So now because he was getting very ill now, they said his 4 children could come and visit him on the island, but only in the school holidays, okay, just to see if his health would improve. But out of the whole 6 years, he was kept under such conditions. His 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter, could only see him for 2.5 months out of 6 years, but only for half an hour a visit also. So for the 2.5 months, the children came to see their father. They were kept in the building just behind there. There's a structure there with a red roof, while the father was kept in here. So near and yet so far. Because they could only see their father from Monday to Friday for half an hour. Then they must go back to their own prison. So the small children was also in their own prison for 2.5 months. So the children was tortured with their father, also psychologically with their father in that period. Now Robert Sobukwe in 1969, he became very ill because of everything that was going on around him. So now the government didn't want this man to die on their hands. Because if Robert Sobukwe must die on the island, they'll make a martyr from him. They took him by boat off. As soon as he put his foot off the boat in Cape Town, Robert Sobukwe was now rearrested for the 3rd time. He was now taken to Kimberley, our Diamond City, where he was kept under house arrest. It was told unto him that if he speaks to more than 3 people at a time, it is an illegal gathering. He had a family of 5. So he died in Kimberley in 1978, just before his 54th birthday. It was only death that brought him freedom, only death. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the story of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. Now, the only way that Sobukwe could communicate with the prisoners, okay, when they walk past here, on the way to do hard labor or to the church, which I will show you, then Robert Sobukwe will salute the ANC like this and the PhD like this. Then he will pick up the sand from the ground, the soil. He will let the sand filter through his fingers. And that was a sign unto all of them that they were the sons of the soil of Africa, that they must keep up the struggle, because he knew now that he won't make it anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a story about Robert Sobukwe. They must use the line out of the quarry, and they must use the line to surface all the roads on Robben Island. The island, after 6 months, then all that was done. Okay? Now, after 6 months, there was no demand, there was no purpose for the line anymore. But then the warden still kept them afterwards for another 13 more years. That whole 13 years became 13 years of useless hard labor. It only became 13 years of punishment towards all the leaders, telling them, you don't go up against government. Because in 1978, when hard labor was abolished, the line, most of the line was just dumped into the ocean. So the whole 13 years was just 13 years of punishment towards all the leaders, telling them, don't go up against government. And also, the wardens told the leaders that protection for the eyes is not allowed. That dust masks and caps is not part of your prison uniform. Now you can imagine for yourself, in the summer periods in Cape Town, it becomes extremely hot. Temperatures easy can reach 40 to 35 degrees. Then this quarry here becomes like an oven, because lime absorbs it. And lime gives off a lot of it also. So imagine for yourself, if you haven't got protection for the eyes, for your eyes, then the glare of the lime is going to damage your eyes permanently. Because if I take you in here in the midsummer days, in summertime, and I ask you to take off your dark sunglasses just for 5 minutes, in just 5 minutes, you're going to feel the strain on your eyes. So imagine for yourself, working in the quarry, hard labor, for 13.5 years without protection for your eyes. 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday. What is going to happen to your eyes? Now, 80% of the leaders, their eyes became badly affected by the lime because of the glare of the lime. Nelson Mandela himself had to undergo various eye operations. The doctors have found that the lime has dried up his tear glands, as his eyes could not produce tears anymore, as his tear glands was badly affected by the lime. But now also in the winter period also, because they didn't have dust masks to cover their mouths. What happened to the prisoners? They now inhale the lime. It also settled upon the lungs. It also now affected the lungs very badly. So many from the leaders, like Mandela, have also succumbed of lung disease. So the lime in this quarry here was actually killing them slowly but surely. But like I said, the wardens knew that. But now, although the prisoners were suffering out here, okay, these prisoners, they took the disadvantage. and then made it into their own advantage. How did they do that? Can we see that small cave over there? That small cave there. That small cave there has been there for nearly more than 350 years already. It is said that cave there was dug up by slaves at the time of Madiba victim. Okay? So that cave there was also used as a toilet for the prisoners, political prisoners. 2 buckets was placed in there. Okay? Because, I don't know if you saw the shell of Mandela. Did you see the shell of Mandela? You saw the bucket there. Now imagine 2 of those buckets was placed in the cave there for 32 grown men, called a bucket system. Also used as a shelter for them, eating room, and a classroom. Because it was in that cave there that the leaders, those that was literate, like Mandela, he was a literate man. Because Nelson Mandela, when he came to Robben Island, he came here as a lawyer. He was really a literate man. But also remember, 70% of the leaders here was also literate people. Because there was professors here, there was doctors here, there was teachers also doing hard labor here. So they came up with a very powerful word that each one shall teach one. Because, but also remember, there was also those prisoners that was illiterate. Okay? That was also doing hard labor here. After 1976, after the uprising of the students that I was part of, my colleague here also, many from the youth that came to Robben Island after 76, many from the youth that came here. Many from the youth came here from the early age of 15, 16 years old, already as political leaders. Now, many from the youth that came here, many from them, they had no form of education at all because they were young in the struggle. So these leaders, like I said, they came up with a very powerful word that each one shall teach one. Whereas those that was literate, they took it upon themselves to educate that was illiterate how to read and write. It all started out of that cave over there in the square. It spread throughout the prisons, each one teach one. Because Nelson Mandela said when he came here as a political in 1964, he said, let us transform this island, he said, into a place of learning. And he also said, let us prepare ourselves for freedom by educating ourselves. Because Nelson Mandela said, if freedom do come along, then already we are educated. It all started out of here, the square here. That's why this square here is also called the University of Life. It's a very powerful area and also a very sensitive area because all the leaders did hard labor here. Now can we see above the building there, that structure there? That is called a BOP, Battery Observation Post from Second World War, a lookout post. Can we see the pilot stones over here? The pilot stones here, just here. Can we see the stones here? Like a pyramid. Now that stone there, now that's a monument. That's a monument, okay? Now that stones were formed in 1995. That is when Nelson Mandela came back to Robben Island as South Africa's first black president. First down there. But he first placed all their stones above his stone. We can see those stones, there's all different color and shape and size and texture. It resembles the unity of our diverse culture. That there is a triumph of the human spirit over apartheid. That's a monument of remembrance for those that make it alive in the struggle. A monument of remembrance. The 60s, the military could attend church in the 60s, yes. Then they could attend church over there, yes. Like it was a sermon. Okay, it was a sermon. A church service, a sermon. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I said on the island we got 4 prison buildings. This is another prison. But this prison here is, can you see the complex prison? But that is a medium security prison. This is where they keep the murderers and the robbers. Imagine for yourself, they keep the murderers and robbers in a medium prison, but the politicians was kept in a maximum security prison. That just shows you the party government was always thinking backwards. Ladies and gentlemen, now that building there is not a prison anymore. It is today used, since 1997, it's been used as a multi-purpose learning center. That's a learning center for all age groups. The other structures to left inside there, those are admin blocks for the wardens, but today they are still being used as admin blocks. If you see me go along, you can see there's a lot of solar panels there, left inside. Now those solar panels was installed about 4 years ago. There's plus minus 1,999 solar panels. So for the last 4 years, Robben Island we use solar energy. Although before that we got diesel generators, about 7 of them. That also supplies current also. The houses to live inside there was occupied by the wardens, by the white wardens. Only white wardens occupied houses in the village, only white wardens. The sports field there was bought by the company prisoners. So only the convict prisoners did hard labor in the village, where the political prisoners did hard labor in hard labor quarries on the outskirts of Robben Island. That's a clinic over there. In the Second World War, that was also used as a clinic. Today it's still a clinic. In the prison also. The houses there was occupied by wardens also. Today on Robben Island, there's plus minus 150 staff who lives on island, okay? They are the cleaning staff, the security staff, and the maintenance staff. And from them is also ex-political prisoners also. They occupy from the houses now. But like I said, most houses, most structures come from Second World War, most structures. That's a post office to live inside from Second World War, 1943. You come from the prisoner, did the guide show you at the census office? But now sadly the school closed down in 2011 because of the low numbers. There was only 11 learners and 2 teachers. The principal was one of the 2 teachers. So now the Western Cape Education Department said it is not feasible to keep a school open only for 11 learners and 2 teachers. Not feasible, which is understandable. Okay? So the school has been closed since 2011. The children now, there's 12 of them now, they attend school in Cape Town. They take the boat over to school. When I speak about the leper period, okay? Now the people, is there any people in the bus from Ireland? Any Irish in the bus? No Irish, okay? Now the Irish were the ones that took care of the leper sufferers, okay? Because of the potato famine in Ireland, the potato famine, okay, in the 1840s, 1820s, many Irish, they left the country seeking, okay, for better employment. From them came to South Africa, to Robben Island, as missionaries, doctors, nurses, nuns, as farmers, artisans. Okay, and they're the ones that took care of the leper sufferers. So if you see above the hill, there's another grave up there, cemetery, that is called the Irish Cemetery. That is where 40 Irish is laid to rest. Now this here, this is called the Irish Town. From here onwards, this is known as the Irish Town. Okay, this is where Irish were living. All the houses here was painted green here. So well done to the Irish. Now as we go along, the building of interest will be to the left hand side here, this building here. In the early 1800s, this was the English governor's accommodation, when the English also occupied the island. But now since 97, we use it as a guest house and a conference center since 97. So today there's a guest house and a conference center. I always say this is the best place to have a conference, okay, for your company, because you know your guests cannot run home, they must stay on island. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break now, okay? Do you want to disembark the bus for 10 minutes? At half for 1? Take a break? And feel the fresh island, yes? Gentlemen, we have come to the end of our time spent together. The tour was informative. Robert did a good job. We understand the history of Robben Island and South Africa also. But also when you disembark the bus, please see that you take all the belongings out the bus with you. Okay, and this bus will be used for another tour after that. People tend to leave their stuff behind. Okay, if you do leave behind, then leave your wallets and your cell phones behind, okay? But please leave nothing behind. Okay, people tend to do so, okay? Because they're in a hurry to get to the part of the boat. They never get their stuff behind. Now, we're just on the way to one more site, okay? That is, I don't know when you walk up to the harbor. Did you walk up to the prison? From the harbor? Did you come by bus? You walked up, okay? Basically, there's a double fence here. Now that double fence is called no man's land. No man's land. That is where the killer dogs were patrolled. So to escape here was impossible for the political escape. Okay. Now this structure here, of most people, they must take it for a mosque. This is not a mosque. That is called a kramat. K-R-M-A-T, a kramat. Now a kramat is a Muslim cemetery. Okay. When you die as a Muslim, you are buried at the kramat. It's a Muslim cemetery. It's a sacred ground Muslims. So the person that was buried there come from Indonesia. His name was Sheikh Abdurrahman Madura. He was brought to Robben Island in 1744 by the Dutch East Indian Company. He died in 1754. Then that structure was built upon his grave in 1967 by Muslim prisoners. Okay? So that's a Muslim sacred ground called a kramat. Robben Island is like a center point, like a magnet, you know. There was all different nationalities here. So many people was in prison here from different nationalities. Correct? Correct, yes. Yeah. Yeah. The building there, like I said, we got 7 diesel generators. That's a gas current, but like I said, we use solar energy also, but that's also there. Now also as we go along now, you'll see the building to right hand side here. This structure here, this is called the half an hour visitor center. Why half an hour? Because that is where you can visit the prisoner, the political prisoner, only for half an hour. But you must apply 6 months in advance for your half an hour visit. When you do get your visit for half an hour, you're only allowed to speak English or Afrikaans, not your mother language. So like I said, it's more of a psychological torture on the island. Ladies and gentlemen, I enjoyed my time with you, okay? So take care, sanitize, and keep safe, okay? Enjoy your stay further. God bless us all. God bless us all. Thank you.